Do you know what? I think one of the telltale signs how you want to react to that is we've had to wait half an hour for you to come out from the change room. I think it's pretty obvious, but what's the atmosphere like in there?
Down, yeah, everyone's down. We're looking at people questioning each other. Could they have done more? Lads taking responsibility. If you come to Alfreton and can't defend your box, you can't defend on set pieces, which is what me and you talked about the other night, you will lose. They've got the best hold-up number 9 in non-league football. You could argue in non-league history in the last 25 years. He's unbelievable at it. But to become naive on set pieces around other players because you're that worried about him causes you a problem. You cannot concede in 3 corners. You can't in football because that reflects bad on all of us. Forget previous stuff and forget the players. It reflects bad on us all. Not good enough. That period of play just before half time wasn't acceptable, and the lads know that. So the reason we've had half an hour is because we've talked about it, what we could have done better, what they should have done better, and what we'll do to rectify that, what they'll do to rectify that. Because we can do all the stuff and what you saw in training on Tuesday and Thursday night. It's a totally different animal when you want to pitch. It's a totally different animal when you're marking a 17-stone man. It's a different. You can't replicate it. So you find ways to do things. You find ways to win little battles, which then go on to winning the game. So obviously you can imagine it was quite despondent for the 30 minutes in there while we spoke.
We went 1-0 up. Big goal for Frank, and Glenn has that shot. Was it over the line? We don't know. And at that point we're thinking this could be 2, this could be 3. I don't want to discuss the penalty decision because
scandalous.
The nature of the equaliser, obviously a scrappy goal, but yeah, it's come from set pieces and ultimately it's been our downfall.
But it's come from our corner. So we're 1-0 up. 7 minutes before half time, we get to a corner, comes out the back door, one pass, they get a corner, score. That shouldn't be happening. There's no way it can happen. One punt from one box shouldn't be getting a corner at the other end. Listen, you get took to the cleaners by a better footballing side, do you? And they open you up and then get caught. That's fine. Some sides are just better technical players and technical teams than you. A long kick, which we've all been dealing with for the last 20, 30 years, depending on how old you are, since junior football, should be dealt with straight away. So, poor away from home, winning 1-0 just before half time. There's got to be responsibility taken in them moments around the box. The worst bit about the first one was win the first contact, and the lad pins his marker and then rolls it back to someone to slot in. And that's what we talk about, taking responsibility. Sometimes people are too wrapped up with who my man is rather than going affecting the danger, which is the ball.
We did have a lot of chances later in the game. We did have a lot of chances, and you spoke last week about the frustration one-on-ones. We're not taking them. Should we have taken one of these this afternoon?
Look, you look at that chance with Mark Anderson, a top, technical, brilliant football player, and he puts it over the bar. That's not digging him out. That happened. Every other player does that all the way. But you put Mark Anderson on because he's a top player. He knows that type of chance gets you a point as a minimum, and then you might even go on and win the game. And I'm using him as an example because he sits there every single week on the bench waiting for his opportunity. He's a top pro and he's a top player, trains unbelievably well. But them moments in the game, and a couple that Claudio's had, and Glenn's that's just gone wide. Frank's header in the first half. It's every game this we're talking about. So you've got to start to think, right, okay, do we need to work more on training in terms of finishing, which is what we do anyway? Do we need to do more on that? Is it the forwards? Are the forwards not good enough? Come on, look at the players and look at where they are in the goal scorers list. But at this moment in time, we're not taking our chances. But goals change games. Once you go 2-0, which we haven't done yet since we've been here, once you go 2-0 in a game, things change because they open up the chasing. So they're susceptible to the counter, especially away from home. So it's about taking chances. It's about what happens in both boxes. And at the minute, on set pieces, because they've not had another chance apart from them, on set pieces, against Alfreton, with Matt Reed, Connor Branson, Richie Sutton, and them types of players in the box, you've got to concentrate for large periods, and it affects you because they're physical players and they bump you about and they'll take you into areas that you don't really want to go. But it's about taking responsibility, and that's why we lost the game.
A bit of a break now. Obviously, there's no game next Saturday with Kidderminster in FA Cup action. So 10 days until Charlie. What's the plan for you? Obviously, get the lads to train, but in terms of incomings, outcomes, is there anything in the pipeline?
Well, the plan doesn't change. 3 set-piece goals. So you go back. We work on set pieces. We've not conceded a set piece. Blythe, maybe was it? I think the last time we conceded a set-piece goal. But then you go back to the drawing board. That's after a game you reflect. What could we have done better? What should we have done better? And you work on them things. Try to identify. things, but it's about taking responsibility ultimately in them situations. So we start thinking about what Chorley looks like in 10 days. Obviously training over the next week, starting to think about that in terms of incomings and outgoings. We've signed 5 players since we've been in. Obviously Jude's been out injured, he should be available for the next game. I thought Claudio put a brilliant cameo performance when he come on, a couple of really good efforts. Maybe, you know, if he'd had a bit more running, he'd have probably scored a little bit earlier. If he'd have been on a bit earlier, I don't know, you know, rather than coming straight on and getting them chances. So when you come in as new managers, you're trying to identify what previously went wrong. You watch as much video as you want, but it's games where it sort of separates the wheat from the chaff, and that's what we're doing at this moment in time. So we've got to look at first short-term goals, winning games, getting back up the league, but more importantly, thinking about what the future looks like. How we're going to play, what does that impact in terms of personnel. So it's not as black and white as saying, you know, is there going to be people coming in and out this week. We're always actively trying to get better if they're identified, but at this moment in time, you know, as I said, we've already brought quite a few in with a couple going out.